Erev Tov, good evening. Baruch Haba, welcome. Shalom.
Hello.
This is our beginner's Hebrew class. Okay, this is the proper place. Beginner's Hebrew class. Let's do the alphabet. And we're going to go to Chet again. By the way, I apologize. Was very much under the weather. Last night got the stomach flu and got it in the daytime, and it just went downhill from there. Got it Thursday morning, and I was home by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just went to bed. So anyway, but we're back. We're back. Here we go. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav-Zayin, Chet. Again. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav-Zayin, Chet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav-Zayin, Chet. Make sure when you say the chet that it comes from the back. Chet. Okay? So don't, not the H sound, not you have to hit that one hard. Okay? Remember, it sounds like you're clearing your throat. Hocking something up. Furball, cat. Alright? Numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. All right, so we were, last time we met, we were on Vav, and we're going to go into Zayin tonight. And this really begins. This is the really cool stuff, right? That we're coming into the heart of the Aleph Bet, and the next several letters. This is all about Mashiach, the Messiah, and the relationship to the assembly, his relationship to us. And so these next letters are going to be speaking to that. So, the Vav, very quickly, that it is the V sound, but that it can also be the O or the U vowel. Okay? And the way you know if it's the O or the U vowel, if it's the O vowel, the dot is on top of it. If it is the U, the dot is to the side, to the left side. Okay? So, if the dot is up here, the sound is O. The sound is, if the dot is over here, the sound is U.
And
if there's no dot, then it's a Vav unless you know otherwise noted. Keeping in mind that in Israel, it's not going to have a dot because that's a vowel marker. That's considered a vowel marker. A nikud. All right, so there's no dot. In the Torah scroll, there's no dot because that's considered to be one of the vowel markers. Okay. So, but context. It's just it's like to say, how do we say Melech, or do we say, is it Melech or is it Malach? Melech, that Malach, that he is a past tense. Melech would be present, would be acting as a present. Like for example, right before we get the Torah scroll out, we open up the door. Right before we get the Torah scroll out, we say, he was king, he is king, and he shall be king forever and ever. Okay, so we say Malach, Melech. So what is the difference between Malach and Melech, or Melech? Malach. Melech. Malach Melech. Okay? And so, how do you know the difference? Well, we know the difference here because we have the vowel markers. In the Torah scroll, you don't have the vowel markers. So, one of the ways that you deal with a situation like this is context. What is the context? And number two, sometimes even that's not going to tell you because it could still be either one. So we go by what the rabbis teach us. The rabbis tell us what the vowel markers are there. Okay?
What's the last letter?
This is the Kaf Sufi.
That's what confused.
Yeah, we're not there yet. A Sofi means an ending letter. So if the consonant ends with that letter, it's called a Sofi. Okay. So with that, clear as mud. Remember that the Vav is a nail or a peg. Thus it is a connector. That the Vav has a prefix is the conjunction and. Its number is 6, which is the number of man. And so the Vav represents man, that mankind, we are the connectors. We are the conjunction, we are the connection between heaven and earth. So man's feet are on the ground, his head is in the heavens, so to speak. Mankind, it is an interesting thing that mankind is one of the few animals that walks erect. We walk erect. Most animals walk on 4s, 6s, right? 4 legs, 4 feet. Even the primates, for the most part, they do not walk exactly erect. They have a hunch, their knuckles drag the ground, what have you, right? So even the chimpanzees, the apes, the gorillas, these kinds of things, the orangutans, they do not walk exactly erect. So in that, man pretty well stands alone, that we walk erect. What is with all of that, what is the distinguishing characteristic, physical distinguishing characteristic between mankind, or for Prime Minister Trudeau up in Canada, humankind?
No, he didn't even use human because there's man and people kind.
People kind, yes. There you go. Because the lady asked him about mankind, and he said that he doesn't use that term. Anyway, but what is the physical characteristic that distinguishes humanity from all the rest of life? Speech.
I was going to say that we walk erect.
Speech. We talk. We talk. The rest of animal life does not talk, does not communicate in this way. Now, there are certain birds and certain animals who can mimic, but they're not holding a conversation. Okay? They're not holding a conversation. We communicate. This is our chief means of communication, is by talking. Animals have other means of communication, wagging their tail, how they hold their head, all these different kinds of things. They have different means of communication. Humankind communicates through speech.
Do they have like their own form of communication now?
Not really. I mean, when you stop and think about even primates, basically they're grunts and growls and things like that, but as far as actually forming words, forming speech and those kinds of things, no. In fact, you might remember that probably about 20 years ago or so, 30 years ago, they were doing a study with apes and trying to get them to talk. And the best that they could ever really do was some sign language. But as far as actually vocalizing, no. They vocalize, but their vocalize is whatever, all right? So that's their vocalization. Now, to them that means something, you know. But what all of that is about, honestly, what all of that is about is trying to elevate animal life to the level of humanity. Yes, that they are the same as we are, and all that they are just as important as we are, and all of these kinds of things, which flies in the face of what the Bible, what Torah actually teaches us, and what this is all about. Which takes us back to number 6, that man was created on the 6th day because he was the zenith, he was the peak of creation. He was the height of creation. Mankind is the height of creation. Understand that it is only mankind who could cause creation to fall. No other animal, no other creature had the ability to cause creation to fall. Why? Because all animal life lives in the realm of the nefesh be'chama. Be'chama, this is where we get our word behemoth. It means animal or animalistic. Nefesh is a soul instinct. So all of created life, including humans, by the way, we also have a nefesh be'chama. We have an animalistic instinct. We might term this as being survival, a survival instinct. So, what is nefesh be'chama? Well, for example, when you feed your dog or your cat, a lot of times, but I know for dogs, you feed the dog. We have a couple of dogs. Like, we have dogs, we don't put their food in the same spot. We put the dog with the food for one animal here, we put the food for another one over here, put the food for another one over here, and we spread them out. Why? Why will they fight? What is there to fight about? Because they all have the same amount of food. What is there? It's because it's this. Literally, it's what it is. They're in survival mode all the time. That never goes away. An animal is always in survival mode, and so he does not have the awareness of today or tomorrow or yesterday, those kinds of things, and so to the animal, this is the only food he's going to get as far as he knows. This is the only food he's going to get. And so he guards that food with his life because in his mind, in his way of thinking, according to his instincts, this is all he's going to get. Exactly, and they will, right? And not only do they guard and protect. We have a little black dog, and man, she'll tear into big dogs. She'll tear into them if they try to if they even come close. If I go close to her food, And she'll sit there, at me like I'm gonna take her food. You know? And how do they eat? They gobble it down. Right? I mean, they eat it as fast as they can. Why? I've often wondered, what kind of taste buds do dogs have? Because I mean, they don't even bother to tell me. He sits there and begs for my food, right? So I give him chicken, and he doesn't even chew on it. I mean, it's just straight down into the stomach. You know, well, what good is that? But for him, it's the feeling of fullness. It's not the taste, and he's not sitting there savoring the meal like you and I do. It's the feeling of the fullness to him. That's his instinct. Okay. So we all have the nefesh bechama. We have it too. We've been teaching concerning Shabbat on Shabbat. We're going through the Ten Commandments, so we've been teaching concerning Shabbat. One of the things about Shabbat is to teach us to prepare, to be prepared. Because on Shabbat, everything comes to a screeching halt. Sunset of Shabbat, everything comes to a stop. So we're not supposed to be shopping, we're not supposed to be working, we're not supposed to be doing the kinds of things that we would do on the other 6 days of the week. We're not supposed to be doing these kinds of things. So everything comes to a halt on Shabbat. And the purpose is to teach us to prepare. So for example, in Israel, everything basically shuts down Friday afternoon. Friday is called preparation day. Preparation for what? For Shabbat. And this goes all the way back to the days of Yeshua. Yochanan, John speaks to this, that it was the day of preparation. Okay? Preparation for what? For Shabbat, for a Shabbat. And if you remember that even the festivals are considered to be Shabbatot, are considered to be a Shabbat. And so everything that applies to the seventh day Shabbat also applies to all the festivals. So, one of the things about Shabbat is to teach us to be prepared, that we're not to put the nefesh bechama in check, to put a rope around it, to put a collar and a chain on it, and bring it into check, so that we're not living that kind of lifestyle where, like an animal, where we're clutching everything to ourselves, where we gobble down our food. Because of some of the things that I'm going through health-wise. I do a lot of study concerning my health. And one of the things that I was reading a while back, because I have digestive issues. My pancreas does not secrete the enzymes and things that it's supposed to. And so because of the diabetes. And so I have to take enzymes, and that kind of messes with your stomach sometimes, and what you eat, and all of these kinds of things. I take what do you call it? Not medication, but for the sugar. No, it's not a medication. It's an additive kind of, yeah, like that. This is called gymnema, but it eats the sugar before it can get into my system. But it's a bitter pill. Okay, so if I'm not careful, then it sours my stomach. So anyway, I have these issues. So I was reading up on some of the aches and pains that I have from time to time, and one of the problems I was reading about is that we here in the United States, what we sit down to as a normal meal is actually too much for us. We eat big, and if we don't have it, when we go into a restaurant, we want the plate covered, right? We want the giantest taco we can find. The tortilla, the whole size of the plate, and fill it with all the beans and the, right? Everything. Okay, we don't want to see the plate until we're finished. Do you know that the human stomach is only intended to hold approximately 2 cups of food per serving? In other words, at a time, at a meal. Now, when you look at how much 2 cups of food is, it's not very much. Okay? And what happens is we eat too much, and it stretches our stomach. The stomach stretches to hold all the food. Then it's pouring the digestive juices in on top of that. And so a lot of our indigestion and heartburn and pains and things like that is actually coming from that. So for the last week I experimented and I cut back to approximately 2 cups of food. Guess what? All my stomach pains have disappeared. I was eating too much. Now I was eating too much because when I came down with this, I lost 20 pounds in a month. Okay? It literally ate my body away. Because of the digestive issues, I don't digest food properly. It does not take in the what do you call it? It doesn't take the nutrients and things like that into the intestinal walls and things like that properly. Okay? So when I sit down to eat, I feel starved because my body is craving for that energy. And so what I was doing was I was overeating, trying to keep my energy, trying to keep boosted, trying to keep the fullness feeling and everything like that. Where we're only supposed to be eating 2 cups of food per serving, per plate. So breakfast, 2 cups of food. Lunch, 2 cups of food. Supper, 2 cups of food. Then what you do is you eat a little something in between. And so what I'm saying is, without intending to be gluttons, we are gluttons. We overstuff ourselves. Okay? What is this? Well, all of this is coming from this, the Nefesh Bechama. So what I'm saying is that this Nefesh Bechama, these are the animal drives, the animal instincts that we all have. Okay? The drive for survival. So this is the sexual drive that we have. What is the sexual drive all about? Well, in animal life, it is about keeping the population, keeping the line going. Okay? So, I raise sheep. So, we have 2 baby sheep. And the mother didn't take it. So we took it in. Now, I have 8 females. Not one of the 8 females would take that baby sheep in. Not one. Why? Because you see, we're looking at it from a different perspective. We're looking at it with humanistic, compassionate feelings. Animals don't have that. Animals are living by this. They're living by this instinct. And that sheep, that baby, did not come from that line. So the mother has no compassion on it, because it's not hers. There's a reason why we have compassion on it. But none of those females will have compassion on it. None of the males will have compassion on it. Now eventually, she has worked herself into the herd. What we did, we bottle fed her in the house. We kept her in the house for almost a month.
Why did her mom not want her?
Who knows? If the mother feels like she can't produce enough milk, if the mother feels like she's not getting enough food, if the mother feels like whatever the mother's feelings are. And animals can get very particular. I had rabbits back in the day. I used to raise rabbits, and sometimes the female rabbit would eat all of the rabbits, except for 2. They would eat all the other baby rabbits, except for 2. So that she could nurse the 2. And so she would kill all the other babies herself. They're cannibals. They are. Which is one of the reasons I would assume that They're not clean. They're not kosher. So anyway, so when I put this baby back into the pen to be with its own kind, to be raised as its own, with its own kind, we're still bottle feeding her, but they learn very quickly to eat, and so she's learned to eat hay with the rest of them and things like that. She's in the pen now. But if she gets too close to one of the mamas, they butt her. Literally, they take their head and they wrap her. And she goes flying. So she's learned kind of to keep her distance away from the sight of the mamas. And some of the males will do the same thing. So she has to be careful. They will actually, if she gets too persistent, and we've had this done, we've had this happen to us before, they will kill the baby. They will kill that baby. Which is why we have to take it out of the pen right away and feed it until it's big enough to fend for herself. Why? Because it's not their line. It's not their line. So, most animals are like this, where they will kill the babies. You know, the baby, a male dog will kill the baby dogs of another male dog. From the dogs that are not his, he'll kill them. Because it's about survival of my line. Now the reason why humans are not supposed to be this way, and the reason why I have compassion on that baby sheep, is because I have another instinct that the animals do not have. So this instinct here, this is the instinct that goes here. It's the connection to the earth. But I have another instinct here, and this is called the nefesh shemagli. So you already know this is what? Instinct. And this is heaven. That is, we're created in what is called B'Tselem Elohim. We are created in the image of God. And so we have the attributes, the instinct that goes along with this. This is what gives us grace, mercy, love, kindness, these kinds of things, these attributes. They're not found here, they're found here. So the animal world does not have this. They live by this. We live by both. We are the conjunction, we are the connection between heaven and earth. Now, saying all of that to say that none of the animal life could cause creation to fall. Only man could do that. Only man could cause creation to fall. Only we have that power. Only we have that authority. Why? Well, because we live in two worlds. And in living in two worlds, by living in two worlds, we have this. Choice. You remember in the garden, what is the downfall of humankind, of mankind? And in his downfall, it is through the downfall of mankind that all of creation falls. The curse comes upon all of creation. And what brought it about was this right here. That we had choice. What is the choice? Adam is given a choice. A choice is placed in front of him. Chava, Eve, is given a choice. And what is the choice? Two trees. the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He's given the choice. And this choice runs through Scripture. God says to Yisrael at Sinai, Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, God says to Israel, He says, I have set before you this day blessing and cursing, life and death. Choose life, and you shall live. We're given choice. The story of Yehoshua, Joshua, his last speech before Yisrael. And he speaks to the people, he says to them, choose today, you choose today whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve Adonai. And so we have this ability to choose. The animals do not. So, why is my dog the way my dog is? 2 reasons. 1, he is living under this. He lives under this rule. 2, he's under a curse for which he did nothing to deserve. What did the animals do to be placed under the curse?
The snake in the garden.
The snake did.
They're under us, you know, authority over us, everything under us.
Everything goes down. Okay, so talking about my sheep. A few years back, we had a little baby lamb, and she was maybe a week old. And we would put the sheep out on the canal bank. And so we had the sheep out on the canal bank. The baby would go with the mother. The mother has to eat, so the baby would go with the mother. Plus, that's how they learn how to eat. They watch the mother put her head down to the ground. They put their head down to the ground. And literally, you can watch them. A baby lamb will begin eating grass within 2 or 3 days after birth. They're born with their teeth already. And so they begin eating. They watch their mother and they do what the mother does. So we had the sheep up on the canal bank. Well, there was a pack of wild dogs that came running out of the field. And the flock took off running. And so the mama and the baby. Mama's trying to stay back and defend the baby. She was trying hard, and she would put her head down and she would stomp her feet at the dogs, and she would chase the dogs back and trying to protect the baby. But it was too much. And so they came and they got the baby and they killed the baby before we could get there. What made those dogs do that? And I can tell you that at the time I was very upset. I was angry. Not at the dogs. Why not at the dogs? Because the dogs were doing what dogs do. This is the instinctual reaction of a dog. I was angry with the humans who threw their dogs out, because that's what happens with us a lot living out there in the country. People come and they drop their dogs off right in front of my house.
Like they rid of their dogs?
Yeah. They have a female dog or whatever, the females had pups and they don't want to deal with, we had one dropped off just a couple of months ago. She's a beautiful black lab. And they dropped her and the pups off. Well, the pups didn't survive. She survived. She survived. She literally, we have a gate in front of the driveway, right? A swing gate, farm gate. We have a gate in front of the driveway. The dog climbs the gate. Literally, she climbs the gate. It stands this high. She puts her paws in and she climbs up and she jumps over the top. And so she would come, she would climb the gate, get into the yard, eat the other dog's food, and then she would, when she would see us coming, she would go and she would climb the other way and get down. She can climb the fence. The fence is 8 feet tall. She can climb, or 6 feet tall. She can climb the fence. How do you keep a dog like that out of the yard? So one of the neighbors tried to get rid of her. She was kind of being a pest, and so one of the neighbors tried to get rid of her with a gun and shot her through the back leg. It didn't hit any bone, it just went through the skin. And so she climbed the fence and went and got under our camper. And I told my sister we didn't want the dog. We had actually called the dog catcher to come pick her up, and they tried. But anyway, I told my sister, look, she survived all of this. She climbs a fence. This dog deserves to live. Right? She's trying very hard to live. So we gave her the second chance. She's a good dog. She's very happy-go-lucky. She loves to tear everything up. So, but I was mad at the humans. I was mad at the people who do those kinds of things, knowing what's going to happen to their dog, knowing what the dog is going to become. So we ended up shooting those dogs. There were 4 of them. Every one of them got shot. Because there are several of us in that neighborhood who raise animals. And we can't afford, I've put thousands of dollars into these animals. I can't afford for dogs to just come and start eating them up and what have you. So they had to be put down.
Yeah, once they start,
yeah. Because it's easy prey for them. They get the taste, and it's just like never feed a dog raw chicken, because once a dog tastes raw chicken, that's it. They're ruined. They will become chicken killers. If you're going to
Chicken whackers.
Huh?
Chicken whackers.
Yeah. If you have to feed a dog cooked chicken. It changes the flavor, changes the taste, and they can't tell. But if the dog ever gets a hold of a live chicken, that's it. They will become a chicken killer. So anyway, but all of this is not the dog's fault. It's not the sheep's fault. The sheep has done no animal has done anything wrong that it deserves to have the curse put down upon it. What has happened is that man fell, and because man fell, the curse came upon all of creation. In the book of Romans, Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, speaks to this when he says that all of creation is groaning, waiting for the redemption of mankind. Waiting with anticipation for man's redemption. Man is the key. You see, it's not just man that is cursed. And it's not just the earth, the world, that is cursed. The curse has fallen upon all of creation. Why? Because the universe was created for the sake of mankind. The universe was created as our home. So when man fell, he brought the curse down upon his home. So his home, the universe, is waiting with anticipation for our redemption, for us to be made right. Because when we are made right, then all of creation will also be right. everything will come back into balance. So man is the key. Thus, the nail, the pay, the connector, the conjunction. Man is the key that holds everything together, that fastens everything together. Okay? It's like Pennsylvania. What is the motto of Pennsylvania? The motto, the state motto of Pennsylvania. You look on the license plate of Pennsylvania, and they have this on their license plate. And it says Pennsylvania up here. It has that underneath, and then it has the numbers, and then here it says Keystone State. What is the keystone? When you have an archway, it's made out of rock, made out of block. This is the keystone that holds the whole thing together. You take this out and everything falls in. Everything crumbles. It is this block here that holds everything together. So that's man. Man is the keystone. Okay? Let's take 5, and we're going to go to Zayin. Reshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. By the way, the ve'et, that's the Vav, and ve'et. So, Reshit, be, in, Reshit, beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God. So here you have a place. In English, how do we say this? Spanish the same way. The subject comes first and then the verb, right? In the beginning, God created, right? En el principio Dios creado. Okay, so you have the subject and then you have the verb. In Hebrew, they've reversed it. Vreshit, in, reshit, beginning, bara, created. The verb comes first. Elohim, God comes second. So what? Is it saying that something created God? Because it puts the verb first. That God was created. So the way Hebrew fixes that is with this term et. Because et is called a direct object pointer. Telling me that there's a direct object coming. If a direct object is coming, what is a direct object? It is the recipient of the action of the subject. Okay? So the direct object receives the action from the subject, receives the action of the verb from the subject. So it's not that God is receiving the action. This tells me that something else is receiving the action and that God is actually the giver of the action. He is the actor. Do you see what I'm saying here? Okay? So, it says, Reshit bara, in the beginning created, Elohim, God, et. Okay, the recipient of this creating act of God is coming. So God, what that's telling me automatically now is God is not the recipient, God is the subject. Even though the subject and the verb are reversed. Et hashamayim, hashamayim is the direct object, ve'et, and et, haaretz, the earth. So the heavens and the earth are the direct object. So you have in the beginning, this is a prepositional phrase telling me when God created This is subject. This is verb. The heavens and the earth. This is direct object. This is direct object. So this is English sentence structure. So what I was saying is that in Hebrew, Reshit bara Elohim et ha-shemayim ve'et ha'aretz. So then in Reshit, beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God, et, direct object, pointer, Hashamayim, direct object, ve, and, et, direct object, pointer, haaretz, direct object. God, et, this is the heavens, and the earth. So the reason why I'm doing this, now you can see the difference of the grammatical of the sentence structure, which is why we have to study the grammar. We have to study the sentence structure so that we can, because it's not the same as English or Spanish. So, Zayin. First thing that I'm going to tell you, the name of this letter is Zayin. Everyone say Zayin. Say it again. Zayin. Again. Zayin. And Zayin is the Z sound. Z. Z. Okay. So Zayin is the Z sound. Okay, Z as in zebra. You need to be careful with Zayin. You need to be careful with Zayin because there is a letter that is very similar to Zayin. And it is over here, and it is called Tsadi. Okay? Everyone say Tsadi. So, Zayin, what is the difference between Zayin and Tsadi? Zayin, Tsadi is this right here. The Zayin is a Z, a straight Z sound. Zayin. The Tsadi, it starts with a Tsadi. Okay? It's kind of like a hard short S. Tsadi. It starts with a T. So the sound actually starts with your tongue on the back of your teeth like you're going to say T. Tsadi. So everyone say Tsadi. And this is where, Tsadi is where we get our word Tzadik. Tzedakah. Literally, righteousness. This is a righteous person. It has come to mean charity, because that's what a righteous person does. So an act of righteousness is an act of charity. Okay? So, the tzadi looks kind of like a crazy Y. So when you come to the Zayin, make sure that it's a Z. When you come to the Tzadi, it's a Tsa sound. The number of Zayin is 7. What is the number of Vav? 6. You remember what the problem with 6 was? 6 was problematic. 6 had a problem. What's the problem with 6? 6x. That was a joke. Algebra, 6x. What is the problem?
6 is the X.
So, is 6 7? Is 6 7?
No.
What is the difference between 6 and 7?
It's less than.
6 is less than, 6 is short. 7, how many days are in a week? 7. And so we say that a week with 7 days is what kind of a week? Complete week. A term that we would use for complete is perfect. 7 is considered to be the perfect number. Perfect in Judaism does not necessarily mean without error. It simply means that it is complete. Now there is a perfection without error. But remember, concerning creation, concerning the first week of creation, since we're talking about all of this, and what we're talking about Vav, remember concerning the first week of creation, at the end of every day, God speaks. At the end of every day of creative work, He speaks. When He speaks, God never says anything was perfect. He only ever says it was good. There's a difference. Because we have this tendency to think that Adam and Chava lived in a perfect world. They did not. They lived in a very good world. And Genesis chapter 1 is very clear on that. They lived in a very good world. Was it perfect? No. The proof that it was not perfect is that it had the ability to fall. Did the original creation have the ability to fall? Yes. How do we know? Because it did. Adam and Eve were not created perfect. They were created good. Ramchal, in his book Derech Hashem, The Way of God, Rabbi Moshe Lusar, he's called the Ramchal, and he speaks there concerning all of this. He says that there is nothing good, there is nothing perfect except for God. Only God is truly perfect. Anything that appears to be perfect is only perfect in comparison to something that is less than itself. So if I have an ugly, ugly wedding cake here, and then I have this beautiful, majestic wedding cake here, I look at that one, I look at this one, I compare the two, and I say, this cake is perfect. Is this cake actually perfect?
No.
No. Only in comparison to this one.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say that this is a perfect world, or that this is a perfect place, or it is only in comparison to something less perfect, only God is truly perfect. that is without any flaws. So we cannot actually say that Adam and Chava were created perfect. They were created very good. Only God is perfect. Their life in the garden appears perfect in comparison to ours. Why? Well, they didn't have to sit there and worry about everything like you and I do. They didn't have the stress and the worries and the problems and all of those kinds of things that you and I have to go through. So, we have bad days at work. They never had a bad day at work. All they ever had was a good day. After good day after good day. They didn't have to stress about anything. Life was absolutely enjoyable. You said you were frustrated when you came in. Their life is perfect compared to yours. But is their life perfect? No. Only in comparison it appears to be. But they still had a problem. And the problem was something that I put on the board earlier tonight. The problem was they had a choice set right in front of them. To choose life or death. So, 6 is less than 7. 7 is perfect. 7 is complete. Saying that 6 is, I hit that one right. 6 is what? If 7 is complete, 6 is
Short, incomplete.
incomplete. So if 7 is perfect, then 6 is
Imperfect.
So if I say that I had that 7 days is a full week, is a complete week, is a perfect week, then 6 days is an incomplete and imperfect week. It's not complete. Okay? So 6 is the number of what?
Man.
Saying that man is Zayin, the number is 7, and this is the number of perfection of completion. For in 6 days he made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested. So, notice something about the Zayin. The Zayin is a Vav. Right? I could finish it out. Right? In fact, in modern Hebrew, you don't have this, it's just a straight line with it. By modern, I mean modern type. So I could do this. To say that Zayin is made of a Vav. So this is a Vav. Right here, this is a Vav. And this are his wings. It's a man. A Vav. What is a Vav? A Vav is a man with wings. And who is the man with wings? Notice this. Ready? Vav, 6, incomplete, man. Zayin, the Mashiach, what? The perfect and complete man. This is in effect, Rav Shalom, the Apostle Paul talks about this in the book of Romans. This is the first Adam. This is the second Adam. The second Adam comes to do what? What's the purpose of the second Adam? To rectify the error of the first Adam. The second Adam comes to make right the mistake of the first Adam. So Rav Shalom says that the first Adam fell, right? The first Adam sinned, and because he sinned, what? All have sinned. We all come from him. But through the second Adam, all have life. Why? Because remember this. You had the choice of what? This is my Smithsonian artwork, so please don't copy it. Copyright it. This is no pictures, please. This is turn the camera. What do you have? Two trees. Tree of what? Life. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So, the first Adam, which tree does he choose? He chooses this one, and what happens to him? He dies. The second Adam has come to rectify that. Which tree does he choose? Which tree does he choose? Life. And because he lives, we too shall live. So, being raised on a farm, we had chickens. Speaking of dogs, we had chickens. And I remember one night, a Friday night, a very bad storm came. Kind of like, did y'all go through the storm last night? Was it stormy with y'all last night?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Boy, it just thundered on top of our house. I mean, just thunder and lightning, and dumped 2 inches of rain. It was kind of like that, except for it was like basically all night. And it was kind of, you know, a front came was coming, the front came through. I was little, front came through, and it was like that. I can remember getting up on Saturday morning and going out into the backyard. The kitchen was at the back of the house, and we went through the kitchen out the back. And that's where we kept our chickens. And I remember walking out the back door of the house and seeing a mother hen laying there on the ground dead, that the storm had gotten her. And my dad came out, and the most amazing thing happened. He prodded her a little bit, took a stick and poked her a little bit, and she was dead. He kind of, when he poked her, he picked up her wing a little bit, and there was a little yellow puff under there. And then he picked up the wing a little more, and there was another little yellow puff. And my dad kind of, he was taken back himself, and he picked up the old hen, and underneath there were like 10 little chicks, all alive. They had gotten in under the mother's wings, and she literally saved them from the storm. She kept them warm. She died. She gave her life so that those little baby chicks could live, literally. So, if you would look at Matthew chapter 23, verse 37. Matthew 23:37.
Matthew 23.
37.
Oh, 37?
So he says, Yeshua is speaking. This is just before his death. O Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, who killed Hanaviim, the prophets, and stones those sent to her. Now look at the next phrase. How often I long to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chick, where? Under her wings. Remember what I told you about Zayin. What is Zayin? A man, what? With wings. By the way, understand this about God. God is neither male nor female. We use the masculine pronoun, he, in reference to God, but God is neither male nor female. The truth is, God has the attributes of both male and female. God has the attributes of both masculine and feminine attributes. He has the attributes of both mother and father. In fact, in the temple, when the Ark of the Covenant was placed in its position, the staves were left in the Ark. This comes from an Orthodox rabbi. The staves were left in the Ark. And if you look at the measurement of the staves of the Ark that carried the Ark, they were left intact in the Ark. They were not pulled out. For all the other pieces of furniture, the staves were pulled out. But for the Ark, it was not pulled out. Why was it not pulled out? Because in order to pull them out, you would have to touch the Ark. And it was forbidden for any man to touch the Ark. So the staves were left in place. The carrying staves were left in place. When you look at the measurement of the staves and you look at the measurement of what is called the Kedush Kedushim, the Holy of Holies, the staves are
a little bit longer than the Holy of Holies. What was in front of the Holy of Holies? What was between the Holy of Holies and the holy place? The two rooms of the temple. The curtain. The veil, correct? The staves were poking into the veil. Why did God design so that the staves would be poking into the veil? Because He is called the provider. Adonai Yireh. My God shall provide. Who is the provider for children? But who is the provider? Who raises the children? Who is the provider for children? The mother is the provider for the children. Here's what the rabbis say. The reason why the staves were longer than the room poking through was to give the impression of mother's breasts. The provision. El Shaddai. Not Yireh, El Shaddai, the God who provides. Shaddai is actually a feminine term. It is the mother who provides the milk for the children. So what we're saying here is that when we have this, we look at God in this masculine term, and yet He has feminine attributes. That He's both mother and father. Father and mother. Why am I saying this? Because of Yeshua's reference here to what? A mother hen caring for her chicks. A female, feminine attribute. And so He says, I long to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wing. This is what a female will do. And so the sages tell us, do not get caught up in just thinking of God in masculine terms. He's both. And if you remember, I think I shared with you a few weeks ago that Adam and Chava, when they were originally created, where was Chava? When God created Adam, where was Chava? Where was Eve? Inside him. He actually had both attributes, even as God had both attributes. So, this is a man with wings. So you all know what this is. This is the talit. This is called a talit gadol. Okay? Talit means is a square cloth. Talit. Gadol means big. I have underneath my shirt, I'm wearing what is called a talit katan. Katan means small or little. So under my shirt here, I wear a little talit. And to that is attached my tzitzit. Okay? So this is a talit gadol. And attached to this are, on each corner is the tzitzit. Strings. Okay?
So this is what we wear what the men wear when they pray. When we're saying the liturgy and such as that, we wear the talit. We cover our heads with the talit and we're praying. But we wear the talit with the tzitzit all day long. In the days of Yeshua, they wore this all day long. So they all had this on. So this is why you will often see Yeshua in movies and and such as that, and he always has the robe and the outer garment on. Remember that he had an outer garment that the Roman soldiers would not cut. It was one complete piece. So at his crucifixion, remember they cast lots. What were they casting lots for? His talit. Because it has no seam.
Did everybody wear it, or just the religious, like the Pharisees and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Regular people?
yeah. Because everybody, all the men are commanded to wear the tzitzit. So you have to have tzitzit, something to attach the tzitzit to. So the simple way to do it was to have a square garment, and you attach the tzitzit to the corners, because that's what the book of Leviticus requires. So it just became the custom for everybody to wear a talit. What's important about all of this is that these corners with the tzitzit, everyone say tzitzit? Tzitzit means strings. What?
It's with that other tzitzit.
Yes, very good, very good. It's with the tzitzit. These are called the wings.
The tzitzit is the wing?
The tzitzit attached to the corners are called the wings. This is called the wings. So what? The Vav with wings. These are his wings. Now what is important about all of this? And we're going to close here and we'll take it up because it gets even more, it gets cool. It gets really, really good. What's with the tzitzit?
Well, they're supposed to be blue, some blue on it.
Yes, but what's with the tzitzit? Why does God tell them to wear tzitzit?
To remember the 10 commandments.
To remember all of the commandments. All of it. By the way, why does God command them to wear tzitzit? To remember. Why? Because God had just told them to remember Shabbat, to sanctify it, to guard it, and keep it all the days of their lives. And the next day, a woman is there. She looks out her tent door, and she sees a young man out there. He's picking up sticks. And it's Shabbat. And he's out there picking up sticks so that he can make a fire, so he can cook his huevos rancheros. Because he didn't get to eat this morning. And there's no manna on Shabbat, remember? You're supposed to collect extra on Friday, on the 6th day. And so she reports him, she turns him in, they go and they fetch him, they take him to Moshe, the whole camp appears before Moshe to see what Moshe is going to say about this guy, because God had just said that whoever breaks Shabbat shall be removed from the people. And so the people say to Moshe, what does God mean by this, that he should be removed? Moshe says, ask God. What do we do with him? Ask God what to do with him. So they ask God what to do with him. God says, put him to death. So they took him outside the camp and they put him to death. We think that Shabbat is not important to God. It was important enough that this young man lost his life over it. And it was directly after that that God says, and you shall make for yourself tzitzit, fringes, and you shall put them on the corners of your garment, so that you may look upon them and remember to do all that I have commanded you. So the purpose of the tzitzit is to remember to do all that God has commanded us. Therefore, the tzitzit is tied this way. This one is tied, see, same way. This one has the blue in it. By the way, this one was made for my son by an Orthodox rabbi from Israel, from Jerusalem. Sent it to him. I forget what the price was. It was like several $100s.
The seats?
The whole time. And the rabbi and my son became friends, and he sent him the talit for free. So that was very cool. My son turned around and gave it to me as a gift. So, but anyway, saying all that to say that you will notice that there are certain braids and knots in the tzitzit, in the tzitzit, and then the strand, long enough so that I can look down and remember.
Some of them don't have the blue.
Because back after the destruction of the temple, when the Jews were removed from the land, they lost track of what the blue was. Because they were out of the, they didn't have the way to make the blue. Basically, the blue it's called techelet, and it comes from a snail that is found in the Mediterranean. They didn't have access to that, so they could not make the blue. Okay. Now that they're back in the land, so many very traditional Orthodox Jews still keep it this way because they don't have the temple, so they don't have a way to sanctify and all of these. So they use that as excuses. But more and more are coming to use the blue because they found the snail. They did all kinds of experiments. They found what they believe is the color, and so now you can buy the techelet. You can buy the blue, but. What I'm pointing to you here is the braids and the knots. When you put them all together, they add up to 613. There are 613 braids and knots to remind us of the 613 mitzvot, commandments, that are in the Torah.
And the seeds in a pomegranate.
Huh?
And the seeds in a pomegranate.
Yes, exactly. So, saying all of that to say, what are the wings? What is the significance of the tzitzit? Torah, the mitzvot of the Torah. You apply this to what we just read in Matthew. What does Yeshua tell them? What does Yeshua tell them? How often I long to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chick, where? Under her wings, under the tzitzit. And Yeshua is saying basically, I would have gathered you under my tzitzit. Saying, I would have gathered you under, the tzitzit represents what? That represents what? 613? The Torah. To gather them into Torah. Torah is our protection. The Torah is our protection. These are the wings. One last. So, let me find it for you. So, go to Matthew chapter 9.
And verse 18. Matthew chapter 9 and verse 18. Just as he was saying these things to them, a synagogue leader came and began to bow before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come lay your hand on her and she will live." Yeshua got up and began to follow him with his disciples. Now remember what we were talking about. The key is this, that he came to do what? To bring, I came that you might have life, and that you might have it abundantly. Okay? He came to repair, to restore what the first Adam broke. He's the second Adam. The first Adam chose this tree, which brought forth death. The second Adam chooses this tree, and it brings forth life. So what are the people doing? They're coming to him and asking him to raise the dead. How does he have the authority to do this? Because he is this. What makes him this? That he keeps this. Do not think that I have come to abolish. I have not come to abolish, but I have come to fulfill. Literally, I have come to live it to the full. I have come to live out what Torah teaches. What Yeshua did, he's the living Torah. He lived out Torah. He showed us how to live it out. And this is why he's this. So watch. Yeshua got up and began to follow him with his Talmidim, his disciples. Verse 20. Just then a woman, losing blood for 12 years, came from behind and touched. Now most English versions say the hem of his garment. This is what she touched. She touched the tzitzit of his garment. This is what she could reach. That she had an issue of blood was an issue. And it's why she does what she does. What it means when it says that she had an issue of blood, she was in a perpetual period. She could not stop her female bleeding. Which made her what? Tamad, unclean. She could not go immerse herself. She could not do the mikvah. Because she had to stop bleeding for 7 days. 7 representing what? She's complete. She could not do that for 12 years, which means that her own husband could not touch her. She could not have relations with her husband for 12 years. She was not supposed to touch anything she sat on. Anything that she touched was unclean by Torah. You remember that Rachel, the wife of Yaakov, Rachel, the wife of Jacob. Remember that her father Lot is not Lot.
She hid the idols.
But yeah, she hid the idols, and so what? She puts them in the camel's saddle, and she sits on the saddle, and then she tells the father, "I can't get up because I'm in the time of a woman." And so what? He goes out because he can't touch. He can't look there, and even if he did, if she's in her period, the idols are all ruined anyway. So this is this woman's condition. She can't go to the synagogue. She can't go to the temple. She can't be out in public. This is why she does it the way she does it. This is why she sneaks up on him. Because it is literally against Torah. It's against the law for her to touch him.
That's why she got scared when he asked her.
Yes, exactly, because she could probably maybe lose her life, I don't know. Nothing else, probably kicked out of the village or the town or what have you, but the consequences would have been very harsh for her. What does it mean that she touched his tzitzit, that she reached out and touched his tzitzit? What do the tzitzit represent? The Torah. She was acting in faith, she was reaching out, she understood that he was the fulfillment of the Torah, and she was reaching out and grasping at his fulfillment of the Torah. Saying what? The Torah does not bring us death, it brings us life. I have said before you, blessing and cursing, life and death. Choose life and you will live. So this is Zayin. What is Zayin? Zayin is Mashiach. What? He's a Vav with wings. He's perfect, he's complete. And he wants to gather us under his wings. To be gathered under his wings is to be gathered under his protection. That he becomes our guardian, that he becomes our protector, that he becomes our guarantor. Right? How many of you, when you got your first loan, did you ask somebody to co-sign for you? Huh? What's the purpose of the co-signer? They're the guarantor. If you fault, what? They pick up the tab. Correct? He's our guarantor. But wait a minute. Can you handle it? One more. Can you handle it? The talit becomes the chuppah of the group. This is also the chuppah. When he says, gather under my wings, come into my chuppah. What is the chuppah? The canopy of the groom at a wedding. In a Jewish wedding, they take the talit and they usually tie it to 4 sticks, the 4 corners. And they hold it over the bride and the groom. Gary knows something about this.
Yes.
The talit belongs to whom? The talit belongs to whom? The groom. He invites the bride to come in under his talit. This is the chuppah. He is inviting this one to come in under his talit. This is Malchut Shekhinah, the assembly, aka the bride. Incomplete without her man. This is the man. The knight in shining armor. Literally, he's the knight in shining armor. Because he comes, see the symbol right here? He comes with his sword. He comes with a sword. He's literally a knight in shining armor. And he's come to rescue his bride. Where does he rescue his bride? Under his wings. With what?
Mashiach is tied to the wing, to the talit, to the tzitzit, to the mitzvot, to the Torah. And so if you have a bride and you have a groom, you're going to have, if you have a bride and a groom, you're going to have what? A wedding. Very good. If you have a bride and a groom, you're going to have a wedding, and the het is the chuppah. Oh, there you go. There it is right there. And we're going to talk about that. Next week we'll start with the sword, and we'll go into the het and the chuppah. So with that we say, Rachot Shalom and Laila Tov.